April-like weather.
761 presents the Old School Hip Hop Jam featuring Rob Bass, Biz Markie, Naughty by Nature, and Salt and Pepper. Friday, April 24th at Santander Arena. Tickets on sale now at the VF Outlet box office, all Ticketmaster outlets, charged by phone at 800-745-3000 and online at Ticketmaster.com. The Old School Hip Hop Jam, Friday, April 24th at Santander Arena.
For late-breaking news, weather, sports, and traffic, sometimes before we can even get it live on the air, make sure you like our award-winning Kutztown University Radio Facebook page or on Twitter at KU Radio. From KUR News, I'm Mike Regensberger. Have a great day.
Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
Seconds on the 5, Connor Barwood. It's home! And Jerusalem! And the Sixers have scored 9 in a row. Are you kidding me?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Tyler Werner Show, right here on the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. And we're really getting down to the wire here with the spring semester, and effectively, I guess my tenure here on Kutztown Radio, believe it or not.
Oh, no!
Given that we only have it's April 15th today, we only got a couple weeks left until finals week, so really getting to the end of the wire here. It's hard to believe. To start today's show off, obviously we got a lot of topics to get around to as usual on the Tyler Werner Show, but in case anybody hasn't heard it yet, breaking news coming out of this morning, obviously, is that the Aaron Hernandez case. Aaron Hernandez has been found guilty of first-degree murder officially, and he will, obviously, that's a penalty of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. He's also found guilty of unlawful possession of a firearm and unlawful possession of ammunition. So therefore, that's the breaking news coming out of this morning. In case anybody has not yet heard of it, it kind of just came out, I guess minutes ago, you could say. And so that I guess closes that case down. I figure it's obviously a big story nationally. The way to open up the Tyler Werner Show today, but moving along, we got obviously. We continue to move through the Eagles off season, and I guess we kicked off the Phillies season at least last week. We only had opening day to talk about in the MLB and for the Phillies, which of course began with the Phillies getting shut out 8-0 in that first game, of course. But ironically enough, the Phillies were actually they started off a little bit, I don't know, surprisingly decent, I guess you could say. They won 2 out of 3 against the Washington Nationals, and after their second win against the Nationals, ironically enough, they were above 500, which is that might have been the only time that they'll be above 500 the entire season. I guess we'll wait and see. You look at the run production, and it's obviously it's not very high, even when they're winning games. So just wait and see how things play out. They got another series against the Nationals coming up, but lost last night to the New York Mets, and the other the other night too they also lost to them. So they got another go around with the Mets tonight. And I guess in a nutshell, that's for now. That's kind of all we really have for the Phillies, as they I guess Ruben Amaro Jr. I guess is going to finish out his tenure, the rest of his contract this season, and many people, as far as him being GM of the Phillies and being ahead of the organization here. It's some people would kind of say dead man walking as far as that's concerned. So that's really where we're at now with the Phillies right now. Of course, the Flyers season came to an end. We got some shifting gears there, we'll have some interesting conversation, I guess you could say, with the Flyers. And I don't know, just confusion with the front office and just questioning the direction of that organization and everything. We'll get into that as usual. We got plenty to talk about with the Philadelphia Eagles and, some of the, Ron Jaworski, former Eagles quarterback, of course, making a pretty decent splash the other day this week. Kind of, last week it was kind of Brian Baldinger, talking about how in his mock draft he felt that Marcus Mariota was going to slide all the way down to 20, which I don't totally see that happening, but nevertheless, that's what Brian Baldinger, that's what Baldinger was predicting in his mock draft last week. So as usual, we'll probably go through more of that, but especially as in regards to Marcus Mariota and Ron Jaworski and what he had to say, and I guess what Chip Kelly has had to say on the matter. I mean, we'll get into that certainly as well. Certainly, of course, also we're obviously coming off of the Masters tournament. Obviously, we got to recap that, and we'll get into that a little later. But for now, to stay a little bit on schedule, I guess we have KUR notebook announcements. And here's one regarding today, actually. Attention KU community, Cliff Crosby. The inspirational former NFL player and Super Bowl champion is coming to KU to tell his story of how hard choices, faith, and hard work helped him avoid pitfalls of a rough childhood. Hear Cliff today, April 15th at 7 p.m. in the Academic Forum, Room 101. The event is free and open to anyone. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. So there you go, Cliff Crosby coming to the campus today, to the Academic Forum, to speak about hard work and, helping him avoid a rough childhood and everything. That's, I wish I knew about that sooner. That'd be something, that would have been something maybe I would have been interested in going, but I got things going on today, so I encourage you to, as always, encourage listeners to, check out things that are going around, especially when it involves a former, NFL athlete, for instance. I mean, then, there you go. And to get into today's show, of course, as I always encourage people to do, you can call 610-683-4058 or go on Facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show, or just type in Tyler Werner Show and, like the page, post a comment on the comment I posted earlier on the page as usual, and share comments, comment thoughts on everything we're talking about today. Since we'll bounce around as we normally do, we got a lot of topics to get into today. And I guess a shout out to is referred to as Monsoon Mike on, around here in KUR, Mike Regensberger, the station manager, who's, recovering from a bad respiratory infection right now. He hasn't really been around the past few days, but, he's been keeping himself available for anything. Best wishes for him making a good recovery this week as he, he runs this station to a T, really. And obviously, former KU electronic media student himself. So we wish the best, wish him a fast recovery, and hopefully Monsoon Mike can return here to the station as soon as possible, because certainly he does so much for this station, for everybody who is a part of the station. So, best wishes to him. Getting back to the Masters tournament, which I was about to get into, and it's an interesting story. We'll hear a lot from the champion of this year's Masters golf tournament, who I don't remember if I mentioned it or not. Maybe I didn't. I would have liked to, last week, because I was opening the forum for Matt Walsh, for instance, to make another one of his surprise appearances on the show, and I guess he didn't show. You never know when he's going to pop on the show, but I would have liked to have seen who maybe he thought was going to, his prediction to win the Masters tournament, because I did have the winner, Jordan Spieth, the 21-year-old. So it's really, with his demeanor and everything, we'll get into, it's hard to believe he's only 21. But nevertheless, I figured last year he was knocking on the door. He's been, in general, he's been knocking on the door to win a major tournament, and guy's certainly got a lot of potential, and is definitely bringing a new, certainly brought a lot of attention to this year's Masters golf tournament. I mean, certainly the ratings showed that. Ratings were pretty, historically high in this Masters tournament, and he was my pick to win it. I figured, he's knocking on the door, and I guess he's hungry, he's determined, however you want to put it. I mean, I wouldn't call myself a golf expert or anything, but I figured, he's gonna get a win here, and certainly he did. He got out to an early lead. I mean, he had a very strong Thursday and Friday, and he got out to a commanding lead in that tournament. And now, Saturday, I mean, the thing is, too, a 4-round tournament like this throughout the entire weekend, I mean, it's hard to, shoot a 64 in round 1 and a 66 in round 2, be that far under par and, not have things even out to, a considerable extent in the later rounds. And, around, Saturday, Sunday, he wasn't, quite as strong in those as he was in those first 2 rounds, which, is only natural, I guess. That happens. But, certainly, he kept it together well enough. And, he at the end of the day, he wins it decisively by 4 strokes. Phil Mickelson and Justin Rose, Phil Mickelson, was right there in the mix towards the top of the leaderboard here at, finishing at -14 along with Justin Rose. Rory McIlroy, for instance, he started off pretty weak. He was on the bubble to even miss the first or second cut. He was hovering around par there those first couple of rounds, but then, for instance, like later on in the round 3 and 4, contrary to some of these other guys, he was started to get things together and finished 4th at -12. McIlroy obviously, was one of the favorites. Coming off this year he had last year, he was winning a couple major tournaments, and to me, it'll be interesting to see how the world of golf shakes out in the near future. Like I said, ratings for this tournament. I was actually in my sports media class yesterday that I have. We were actually looked at the little article, and there was an update, about the tournament, and certainly, the attention was pretty steady for this year's Masters golf tournament, and history was made in a sense. Maybe that sounds a little cliche to say, but Jordan Spieth, he's only 21 years old, and you got to think that throughout, to be that young, the age of, the same age as many students right here at Kutztown University, and to keep it together like that, to be in that big of a spotlight in what is the Masters golf tournament, and to keep it together like that and win with a -18, 4 strokes better than Phil Mickelson and Justin Rose. That's just, incredible, to say the least, as far as I'm concerned. And, round of applause, etc. We'll hear some of the press conference from Jordan Spieth, the Masters champion this year. Because, like I said, it was kind of a history-making tournament, a history-making performance out of him, and he was definitely a good win here for Jordan Spieth. And it's very intriguing considering the guy's only 21. And, I was watching video footage of him earlier when he was 14 years old. And, that was 2008, which, to me that seemed like yesterday. And, kind of him, like, I guess, prepare, his goal was to get to the Masters and win it and everything. And this past weekend, beautiful weather down there, in Augusta. And it just, nice tournament. I was mainly watching it most of Saturday, actually, when I had the chance to, actually really be able to sit down and watch it on, I guess the one TV in the house that actually has the necessary, I guess, technical equipment from Service Electric to be able to watch the tournament. I was able to sit down and watch some of it, and again, it's just another example of, to me, my opinion, how it's nice. Golf to me is nice when you got several guys now. You got Rory McIlroy in the mix. You got Jordan Spieth. Phil Mickelson, definitely showed up here in this tournament, I guess you could say. And Justin, and there's other guys, that maybe they weren't as strong in this tournament, but certainly another tournament, easily the next tournament they can be up there at the top and perhaps win it. To me, that's, I like that part of golf. It doesn't have to be this thing where one golfer dominates. It's not 2001 or whatever with, Tiger Woods dominating a lot of tournaments or whatever,
I had a few things.
And, certainly, I'm not going to, I do got to give Tiger Woods some credit here. He finished 5 under. He wasn't, up there at the top, but, he was on the verge of getting cut after the first round, but, he hung in there and he performed pretty well throughout the tournament. Coming off of his back issues, he originally was not expected to participate in this year's Master tournament, but I can't help but give Tiger Woods some credit. He didn't.
Yesterday I did pull
he
out.
didn't do any of that. There was no. I guess clenching the back or whatever, or making possible excuses, or all the speculation with him last year when it seems like suddenly he'd start. His play would start slipping, and then he'd start, I guess, holding the back and in pain and whatever. And, not that I think Tiger Woods will win another major tournament or anything, or be, up there at the top of the leaderboard with some of the guys, like Jordan Spieth now playing lights out good golf now. Not that I think that, but, credit to Tiger Woods for hanging in there. How does that sound, I guess, for a change? So, 610-683-4058. Again, we'll listen to some of what Jordan Spieth had to say, in bits and pieces, I guess, because it's a big, in the world of golf, it's a big deal. Some people say, how, he might save golf or whatever. I wouldn't overreact here and suddenly say, he's the next Tiger Woods. He's the next guy who's going to dominate the game. But, at the end of the day, he's another, he's a young guy, and he's got certainly a lot of potential for years to come to be at the top of the leaderboard for many tournaments to come, such as the Masters. So we'll hit to the first commercial break here, and we'll come back on the other side, as we always do, and get into a little Eagles talk, I would say. And then see what else comes up on the Tyler Werner Show today. 610-683-4058. It's the Tyler Werner Show. It's right here on Kutztown Radio.
We're Cub Pack 180, and you're listening to KUR.
The traditional light bulb, a groundbreaking invention in 1879. Other groundbreaking ideas from that time: the whalebone corset, the pedal-operated submarine, and the two-story outhouse. We've come a long way since then. It's time our light bulbs did the same. Visit EnergySavers.gov and learn about energy-saving light bulbs. See, these new bulbs are more efficient than the old ones, like a text message is more efficient than a carrier pigeon. They last longer, too, like how we humans last longer now that doctors use antibiotics instead of leeches. And they cut down on our energy costs. Because in our own groundbreaking age of aeroplanes and moving pictures, we deserve a light bulb that saves us some cash. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
It is 11:25 right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio on what is shaping up to be a beautiful week of spring here, I guess you could say. A little rain yesterday, maybe, but never, temperatures are up in the 60s now all week long. So, a couple days in the 70s. Monday was just absolutely beautiful. In the low 70s, clear skies for the most part, and certainly we're in mid-April now, so we can expect that and expect some rainy days to come as well. But certainly it's it really feels like spring is here, and that summer is on its way, and that this yet another semester here at Kutztown is coming down to a close here and everything. So it's and for some people like myself, graduation is just a matter of a few weeks away now, and yeah, thank you Brian Dawkins on that. But anyways, speaking of former Eagles, like for the legendary Eagles, I guess you could say, Ron Jaworski made some waves, I guess, just a couple days ago in discussing Marcus Mariota. And we'll, again, last week it was Brian Baldinger he basically predicted that in his mock draft assessment at the time that Marcus Mariota will slide all the way to pick number 20. Essentially, the whole thing about mortgaging the future, and that if the Eagles want Marcus Mariota, they're going to have to trade up. They're going to have to make some moves to get up to a position to be able to draft him. Brian Baldinger says, well, no, he'll slide all the way to 20. The Eagles won't have to do anything. And because obviously it's a no-brainer to select him. And it sounds like somebody is knocking on the door. I don't know if it's coming through the microphone. Fortunately we have Jake Zimmers in here, one of the KUR hosts, working on something, and just let him in the door. So, all right, I guess that settles that situation. So, anyways, a bit of a distraction. But anyways, Brian Baldinger, I don't know. I don't think Mariota would slide to 20. And then, the week before that, it was McShay who said, predicted that the Titans at number 2 would take Marcus Mariota. Because obviously the favorite, I guess, number 1 pick, most likely, is obviously pretty unanimously Jameis Winston going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, Ron Jaworski, he thinks otherwise. Let's listen the other day on CSNPhilly.com. Hear a little bit of, I guess, the main points here that Ron Jaworski had to say in regards to Marcus Mariota and the Eagles, and how the whole idea with mortgaging the future, which maybe to the chagrin of Chip Kelly has now come back to light, essentially.
You got nothing to talk about on sports radio. Let's talk about trades.
So yeah, I'm sure those that whole idea is going to start coming up again more often in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the draft. Here's what Ron Jaworski had to say.
You have to mortgage your future. I know he says he's not going to, but what mortgage means is you get something now and you pay later. And if you really love Marcus Mariota, and guys, this is a perfect fit. All week I've been back in my office at NFL Films studying Marcus Mariota. This guy can flat out play. I have now elevated him on my big board of quarterbacks coming as the #1 quarterback. He's as clean as a whistle. You have nothing to worry about off field, and he can make plays. So you look at the perfect fit. It is Chip Kelly's offense. It is Marcus Mariota. And I'll give you just a little bit of information how much Chip Kelly loves Marcus Mariota. This is the time of year where everyone talks. And I talk to general managers. I talk to player personnel directors. And I've heard it from a couple or three people that have had conversations with Chip Kelly. And Chip Kelly said Marcus Mariota will win multiple Super Bowls in the National Football League. Let me say it again.
Wow.
Will win multiple Super Bowls. Now, he didn't say it was going to be in Philadelphia.
Right. But
he said that's how much he loves this guy. And a lot of people feel the same way, that Marcus Mariota is that good, you can win multiple Super Bowls with him as your quarterback.
So if you're Chip Kelly and you're in the driver's seat and you're making the decisions, would you give up multiple draft picks to go up to 1 or 2 and try to get your guy?
If this is the guy you absolutely believe in, that's your guy, yes. Which is what kind of surprised me about the Sam Bradford acquisition, because he gave that second rounder next year. Now, maybe there's some plan in place where he could recover that second round and somehow make the deal spicy enough that, he could move up into that, maybe even 2 or 3 or 4. But, it's going to be interesting. But if I'm Chip Kelly, to answer the question, yes, I would try everything I can. If that's the guy you love and believe in, but let's do what you got to do.
All right, so that was, I guess the highlights of what Ron Jaworski had to say the other day. He was fired up, and
Oh my God!
he thinks. I kind of have, to be consistent. I've kind of agreed with him, months ago. As long as it's within reason, and you're going to make moves to this is the guy, to echo what Jaworski was saying, which obviously, would be a perfect fit for Chip Kelly, and without question, he would. Unlike maybe going, to other teams and maybe having to be groomed a little bit, maybe have to, be coached a little bit to maybe fit a more of a pro style offense or whatever. That's one thing, but considering at least the skill set and the ceiling that Marcus Mariota has, and then not to mention with Chip Kelly, be able to open up more of the offense that initially Chip Kelly has in mind to run here for Philly. At least that's what we thought, and that obviously can't be run with Nick Foles and can't be run with Mark Sanchez and can't really be run with Sam Bradford, of course, who, again, that whole move continues to be a head scratcher right now, and, to many fans, and certainly to the jersey makers who are hesitant to, put Sam Bradford jerseys and, get the materials again and make those, considering, they're not so sure themselves. Chip Kelly, it's hard to predict what he's going to do next. He could say one thing and do something else. With the whole Marcus Mariota thing, Chip Kelly says how, well, he believes that Marcus Mariota will win a few Super Bowls, and multiple Super Bowls, he said, in this league. It was Jaworski said. And if that's what you think, if that's logical, then if you don't get Marcus Mariota, then essentially, are you not coughing up, a few Super Bowls? If you're going to be logical about that, you don't have to believe that or not if you don't want to. That remains to be seen. I think Mariota's got a lot of potential in this league, and certainly can win a Super Bowl. Obviously, Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly could be, trying to, I guess, throw a bone to Marcus Mariota, in a sense, and Mariota's Chip's guy as far as a quarterback. We can go on ad nauseum about how that's, he's Chip's guy and everything. But, logically, if you're gonna say something like that this guy, can win win multiple Super Bowls in this league, then, especially given he can fit your offense perfectly and whatever and run it. Wouldn't logic say that? Well, then you gotta try to get him. And I mean, Jaworski was, just saying himself how, mortgage the future, you're making an investment in whatever, and, I think buy now, pay later, or whatever else he was saying. I mean, I've heard, obviously just played that CSN audio, and I heard the other day after saying those kinds of things, he was on the phone with, Mike Missinelli, for instance, and I heard more of that. And,
Brindy, how you doing, man?
Just thoughts that Jaworski has right now. And I don't know, it's kind of ironically enough, too, that Jaworski also believes that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will go Marcus Mariota with the number 1 pick in the NFL draft and not Jameis Winston, unlike everybody else. And
oh my God!
I don't know. I don't necessarily believe that. But nevertheless, I guess it's a contrasting opinion from the norm here. It's like going back to last week. You had Brian Baldwin. You're saying he's going to slide all the way to 20, and here you have Jaworski saying, no, he's going to get picked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's just again, it's just a wash with this whole NFL draft, and we only got a couple weeks until that draft comes, and it's going to be quite a spectacle, to say the least. And I heard, to make things more interesting in the Eagles world, actually, I heard yesterday that Sal Paolantonio will also be the guy covering the draft for the Philadelphia Eagles on I guess the media coverage end on that. So there you go. All these Eagles guys, I guess, in their interesting light to shed on this on the draft and what they think's going to happen. We'll look more into that as we go through the show today, because there's some other things to get to as always. Like including Sixers basketball. Today, is the last game in what has been, another take of the Sixers tank job, I guess you could say. And, of course, they played the Milwaukee Bucks on Monday night, and, obviously, Michael Carter-Williams now on the Bucks and everything, scored 30 points from the Sixers the other night, and, it's, closing things down for the Sixers season. It just does beg the question a little bit if they will do better in the draft over what they had in Michael Carter-Williams. Decent size of the point guard position and everything, and I don't know. Basically they're what they said in getting rid of him is that in the draft they can do better, and I guess it's a matter of getting as many ping pong balls as possible. And I think tonight, obviously you give the Heat the game essentially, and then I think hope that the Utah Jazz lose, I think or win or something, and that'll I guess perhaps make it more likely that the Sixers will have more picks up high in the draft. It's just like draft right now with the Sixers, and ping pong balls, and they have dozens of how many ping pong balls are the Sixers going to have, and draft picks, and
I've handled dozens of balls over the past week.
Yeah, even as Bill Belichick would say, with all kinds of ping pong balls, and just it's another year of that. I remember last year the whole felt like it was in the same conversation. The Sixers, they got all these ping pong balls and all these draft picks, and Sam Hinkie said it himself. He believes that you build the team through the draft and everything. And Chip Kelly as well said that in his press conference for what it was worth a couple weeks ago. But that's the direction here of the Sixers. And I don't know. It was just interesting though the other night how the Sixers play the Milwaukee Bucks. Carter Williams puts up 30 on them, and it'll be interesting to see though. It's the end of another Sixers season that was, effectively a tank job. They they didn't only win like 8 games or whatever, like some people predicted that they would. I mean, but they stayed under 20 this season, regardless of what happens tonight, and so I guess a job well done by the Sixers for those who are on board with this whole tanking thing. And I mean, I guess I kind of am for now, anyways, because they were, regardless of what they had, I didn't think they were going to do anything before this whole tank job started. So, this whole new organization, with Sam Hinkie being the general manager here, and Brett Brown is the coach and everything. So that's really pretty much that for the Sixers right now. 610-683-4058. We'll get into more on the other side, as usual, right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio. Don't go anywhere.
ThePeopleChronicles.com is a community storytelling project out of Berks County, uplifting, challenging, moving stories, everyday people sharing their lives, their stories with all of us. If you are looking to be inspired and you want to share your story, find us today at ThePeopleChronicles.com.
And you can hear the People Chronicles every Thursday at 11:30 a.m. here on the radio voice, KUR.
It's on us to stop being a bystander to the problem of sexual assault.
It's on us
to stop the sexual assault any way we can.
It's on us to change the way we talk about women.
Take reports of sexual assault seriously.
To look out for someone that has had too much to drink.
It's on us, the Golden Bear community,
to stop sexual assault.
I took the pledge, and you can too, at itsonus.org.
It is 11:41 right here on today's edition of the Tyler Werner Show. As we're coming down to the wire here, towards the end of the semester, yet another semester, and as it turns out, my last semester here on KUR is, I'll be looking to intern over the summer, and we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks as far as that goes for me. Might be getting a couple interviews at MMR coming up. It's just a matter of, waiting to hear back from emails and all people and sifting through their emails and everything like that. And, it's just kind of it's a bit of a suspenseful process waiting to hear back from people. But fortunately, I should hopefully be getting, a couple interviews set up for that station in the video department and certainly the radio department, which is, of course, my main area of focus. Now, I have an interesting article here, I guess, with, the whole thing with the Flyers. And this obviously, because now their season came to a close, and, of course, not that it really matters at this point, but, of course, their last 2 games, kind of like I would predict, just in general, the Flyers lose to 2 teams that are basically out of the playoff hunt, essentially. And, again, not that the Flyers were mathematically alive anyways at that point in the season, but, disappointed end of the season. And certainly, Ed Snyder said it was a disappointing season as well. And, CSN Philly.com, my reaction is we are where we are, and Hexie has to do what's necessary to improve our team. And, it just gets so, with the whole Flyers, all the nicknaming within the, everybody has to have, this spin on their last name, or, Hexie, and,
Brindy, how you doing?
Yeah, like when Rod Brindamore being on with Mike Missinelli, for instance, and just this whole thing. Schenner, Simmer, and I don't know. There's so many nicknames floating around, and right there you go with Ed Snyder, nicknaming the GM Hexie, and then you got Coach Craig Berube, who. it'll be interesting to see if he's still on the coach of the team next year. Calling him chief, and I don't know. Just anyways. I was reading this art from CSNPhilly.com the other day, and it's notable to bring up because there's like a disconnect here in differing, I guess, viewpoints on the direction of the Flyers between owner Ed Snyder and of course, the general manager Ron Hextall, or Hexy again, as some people would refer to, but I don't really join that crowd. General Manager Ron Hextall said last week that he will need several weeks to evaluate every aspect of the Flyers and even the coaching staff. So again, the whole thing with Craig Berube that hangs in the balance right now. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, one way or the other, for all I care, I really don't care if they get rid of Coach Craig Berube. I mean, really, to me, one way or the other, it's, Get out! It's not really going to matter one way or the other. I mean, because ultimately, you gave up what was a pretty good coach, I think, a little prematurely in the season. I mean, it was only 3 games in, Peter Laviolette, and of course, now he's over in Nashville doing some good work there as a coach. So, at the end of the day, it's, you got to provide good talent here in the Philadelphia Flyers, and as far young talent, and not bringing in Vinny Lecavalier, who's basically finished being one of the best players in the league. He's now been finished being a top player in the league for a few years now, and nevertheless the Flyers bring him in on a 5-year contract and probably paid him too much money. That was Paul Holmgren's move there, but nevertheless, I mean, it's kind of a stick in the craw here with the Flyers if you think about it. So anyways, Snyder didn't waver from his usual position of not commenting directly about certain players or even giving Coach Craig Berube a vote of confidence to fulfill the final year of his contract next season. I don't take a position on these kinds of things ever, Snyder said of Berube. What Snyder did say, however, was that he wants Hextall to determine whether the organization has misjudged the talent level and whether it needs upgrading. Did this group underachieve? And, it's just, before, even share, I mean, there's just not enough talent here. I mean, sure, you got Jake Voracek, who, one of the top few guys in the league in points this season, a great season. And you got Claude Giroux. And to a lesser extent, you got Wayne Simmons. And then after that, it's just kind of like no depth, really. I mean, people want to say about they underachieve, and then there's the whole thing that, I don't know, the cliche thought sometimes, like the theory, and sometimes even, experts, well, maybe not, I don't know if you want to call them experts or not, but, just, the Flyers commentators, I mean, Bill Clement, Steve Coast, some of these Flyers guys, sometimes they'll say, oh, they didn't play the full 60 minutes, or they didn't, they just got to, some fans will say, they just got to play harder or whatever, and it's like that doesn't really explain anything. It's talent. It's not playing hard. It's the NHL. It's not, a roller hockey league in middle school or something. Like, they just got to play harder and they'll be better. I mean, that might work for a little roller hockey league or something like that where it's kids or teenagers. This is the NHL. There's no room for, they got to try hard. It's talent. And, bringing up young guys who are going to be talented and, contribute to the team. And, I mean, when you got guys like Couturier and, the Shen brothers who, the past few years, people are saying, oh, just wait, they're going to be good. They got the young guys with the potential and everything, and it's like, well, a few years later, where's, things still aren't showing. And here the Flyers are, for the second year out of 3 seasons now, they're not in the playoffs. So that's really that. But as far as Snyder says of that, as far as the group underachieving, anybody that's a fan or knows the team knows we need more than what we have, Snyder said. I'm not sure whether we underachieved because it's 2 years out of 3 we didn't make the playoffs. So we got to look into the mirror and say, do we feel we have more talent than we actually have? This is what Hexie has to do. He's very studious and has evaluated all year. He'll be evaluating every single day with the players. You ought to ask him that question. So, Hextall, essentially he kind of went on to Hextall himself kind of went on to say, well, yeah, I mean, we got to bring in more young guys or give some of our young guys time to, I guess, come to, well, it's like the whole thing with Couturier and Shen and some of these young players. He said we got to be a little patient with our young guys, and it's like, well, the guys we're being patient with. I mean, this team didn't even make the playoffs this year, and there's nobody in the minor league system for them that they can bring up and that will be better than what they have. I mean, they've done that here and there, but there's been no guys that they've brought up and have been staples of the team really at all this season. And, so, I mean, something must be going wrong there, especially when, again, this is not a playoff team. This is certainly a team that you would think that hopefully they can bring up some younger guys and contribute to the team, and they haven't really done that with any of them. So, Hextall kind of said, we're going to, a couple years here, we, may need a little patience and everything. And then Snyder kind of fires back, or I don't know, or maybe not fires back, but kind of says, no, we should make the playoffs like next year, whatever, and this and that. And clearly you got some kind of dysfunction here, I guess. It's just contrasting viewpoints. I mean, for one thing, I mean, Hextall, he's saying about trusting the younger players and that they'll develop and whatever. And, I feel like, unfortunately, that hasn't been really working lately, the past few. The guys that we've been waiting to, I guess, blossom, you could say, a little spring term there, I guess, with the flowers and everything blossoming and whatever else. A lot of these guys, they just aren't, blossoming out of the minor leagues and whatever that they bring up to the Flyers. And, again, it's the thing with Couturier, and that he was supposed to turn into this, maybe another Jake Voracek or Claude Giroux, and, that hasn't really happened, certainly. And, time's ticking. I mean, it's been a few years now, and that still hasn't happened. So you got that angle of it with Ron Hextall, and then you got Snyder, who, again, I mean, his shadow is over the whole organization, and it's been over the whole organization for years now. And Hextall is working under that shadow. It's the whole thing where, ex-Flyers, they owe their debt to Ed Snyder and everything. And, you just wonder now if, again, I mean, Ed Snyder, that shadow is going to continue to shape what Ron Hextall's doing here, and maybe pressure Ron Hextall to, do things differently, I guess. Do things more as Ed Snyder sees them. And, I guess make the playoffs, maybe pressure that, no, let's do what we can to make the playoffs next year or whatever. But at the end of the day, I mean, what Snyder says, he's thrilled that we have guys like Claude Giroux and Jake Voracek and Simmons to build around, and I'm looking to see progress on some of the players who didn't have the seasons we hoped that they would have. And, with the whole Braden Shen, Sean Couturier, and Matt Reed, I mean, Snyder says those are the kind of things that Hextall has to determine. It's a very difficult thing. They accomplish what they accomplish and everything, but essentially, Ed Snyder says, let's try to make the playoffs next year. And yeah, I mean, that's obvious, but they got to do more than that for a change. That's the bottom line. And I don't know, there's not a whole lot of pressure from the fan base. I mean, at least most of it from what I gather. And, we continue to be in this, kind of this cycle with the Flyers where, there's no, ultimate success with winning the Stanley Cup. So, we'll continue to monitor that. I mean, who knows? I mean, next week, by this time, I don't know, maybe Craig Berube will be fired. Maybe we'll have more on this. But right now, it's kind of what seems like a little bit of a dysfunctional situation with the Fly, between Ed Snyder and Ron Hextall. And again, Ed Snyder, in the shadow he casts over Ron Hextall, now the GM, and just over the organization in general. So, moving along here, we got another KUR notebook announcement. Attention KU community. More than 300 students, staff, and faculty are expected at the 5th annual Kutztown University Boxer Trot, sponsored by Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity on Thursday, April 16th, outside of the McFarland Student Union Building. Activities begin at 10 a.m. and the race begins at 3 p.m. All proceeds benefit the fraternity's national charitable partner, the Children's Miracle Network. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. Now, before we hit halftime on the Tyler Werner Show, we'll go to the Tyler Werner Show call-out of the week.
It's time for Tyler Werner's call-out of the week.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation, that's all.
What's the matter with you? Loser! You're a loser!
Are you kidding me? Well, I have a microphone, and you don't. So you will listen to every word I have to say!
Now this, again, sometimes these call-outs of the week, I mean, sometimes they can just be a little random. And, sometimes they can feature somebody that I guess I don't even know the name of. So I can't, unfortunately there's no name in this week's call-out of the week. But it's going to, I guess, point out a little bit of maybe something we can call weight room etiquette, or I don't know, just standards that you kind of should be going by when you're at the weight room lifting weights. Or in this week's call out of the week, I guess the addition of this, I mean, I guess it's a matter of somebody who yesterday I was at the rec center at Kutztown, like I normally would be, or at LA Fitness down near closer to where I live. But yesterday I was in the gym there, the rec center, and I was maybe 12 feet away or so from something that happened. I just wondered, it's just a matter of, I don't know who this is. I can't, there's no name, but nevertheless, it brings out an interesting lesson here. I don't know, it's kind of common sense, but somebody was at the one of the squat racks, and I wasn't even watching. I didn't even see it really happen. I just heard it happen and then looked over. Somebody was at the squat rack and they were taking, the weight plates off the bar and everything. And, suddenly I, hear this loud, crash and bang that, maybe occasionally you hear at the weight room. But, yeah, I don't know, there's something odd sounding like that. And I look over, and what happened was, this guy who was, I guess taking the weights off of his bar, the bar here that he was using, he decided to, I guess, take the last 45-pound plate off of the one side of the bar, and the thing went crashing. And I look down at the floor because, this is serious. I mean, if I was maybe 12 feet away from this. I mean, I wasn't walking in the air, but I mean, if somebody could have been walking in this area or something, I mean, there could have been a serious injury here, and it would have been because of a lack of common sense. I look at what happened here. I look at, the weights that were essentially that were on the one side of the bar that essentially was too much for one side, obviously, and cause the bar to, go haywire and crash to the floor. It's common sense. You got to keep up with that. And, I guess the guy was, squatting like 275 or something or whatever. And if it's somebody that puts that much, is doing some kind of considerable weight like that, I guess I could call that considerable weight. I mean, not by my standards, at least, not to, brag or anything, but basically I look at the floor and I see that essentially what was on the one side of the bar, as opposed to the side that essentially emptied off, I mean, it was two 45-pound plates and a 25-pound plate. And you have that on both sides, and that gives you 275. So I'm wondering how, the common sense, seriously, you got to be thinking about that. I mean, I've never done something that silly in all my years, and I really haven't seen anybody do something that senseless. That they just leave, they leave 2 45s and a 25-pound weight plate on one side of the bar, and then they just leave and they're taking off the entire other side of it until it's empty, and they don't assume that they don't know that that's not going to support. That's not going to hold up. The thing's going to go, crash into the ground. If somebody walks by, you could be just, you can talk about destroying somebody's feet or legs or, who knows. That's just, I was only 10, 12 feet away from this. And I'm just thinking, what is up with that? I mean, I could have said something, but I mean, it's the way, it's the weight room. I guess you don't want to say anything, but hopefully maybe a lesson learned here that you would have thought would have already been learned. I mean, it's kind of common sense here. But again, I mean, it's the weight room. I mean, motions running high. Maybe I guess, I'm not going to pick a fight or anything, but, I think it was funny because I was looking at a little exchange. I'll bring it up later on Facebook actually, but it's funny because I've had many memories over the years with silly things happening that shouldn't happen in weight rooms and everything. Like my days at Governor Mifflin High School, and Mr. Lapuchin, the strength teacher from he's from Russia, and he does have a sports. I mean, he was once strength and conditioning, I guess, coach or whatever you can call it for the San Jose Sharks, and I just think to myself, if he would have, if he were there, if something like that happened in Mr. Lapuchin's strength class or whatever, I mean, he would have gone AWOL. I mean, dropping profanity like crazy, and I've seen him do it. It's just like common sense. He would have just gone, I don't know what you want to, I can't. What the hell? I can't really say. I mean, he would have been dropping F-bombs, I'm sure, and I mean, you just can't do that. For those who are going to the gym or whatever, you can't. You got to keep a balance to, weight to barbells like that on a squat rack or on a bench or whatever. And I would have thought that, again, this guy would have known that the weights were going to do that. Because, somebody, if he does something like that again, who knows? Maybe somebody walks by. Maybe he really, causes a real problem. That's my thoughts on that. The moral of the story, if you're taking weights off a barbell like that, don't, you can empty one side and have, 145-pound weight plate on, and it'll be fine. But you put, I would never advise that you leave any more weight on the other side than that, let alone another 45 and a 25-pound weight plates on it just can't happen. Or else essentially you'll have what happened yesterday at the Kutztown Rec Center. So that's that in a nutshell. 610-683-4058. That is the number to get in on the Tyler Werner Show, as we're at halftime on the Tyler Werner Show. So we'll come back on the other side. We'll continue more discussions. We'll start getting into this, what Jordan Spieth had to say after his, pretty historical win at the Masters tournament this past week, and a very impressive showing from the 21-year-old. So with that in mind, we will hit halftime on the Tyler Werner Show. We'll get back to all this discussion after this.
KUR Kutztown.
Radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR.
What are the different ways I can tune into KUR?
Well, there's 1670 AM.
Streaming online at kur.kutztown.edu.
At select times of the day on Service Electric Berks Channel 24.
Hometown Utilicom, Channel 28.
And Service Electric Lehigh, Channel 266.
Or on your smartphone using a free app like TuneIn.
Or on any phone simply by dialing
610-465-7860.
KUR can also be heard in select campus buildings like the MSU, Rickenbach, Stratton, Rec Center, and Keystone at 88.3 FM.
Nominated for Best College Radio Station at an institution with under 10,000 enrollment and winner of Best Use of Social Media, your news leader in northeastern Berks County, KUR Kutztown.
News, time for news.
The KUR News Time is the top of the hour. I'm Mike Regensberger. With the state legislature returning to session in Harrisburg, a Luzerne County lawmaker is hoping state budget negotiations will begin in earnest and include much of what Governor Wolf is proposing. Harold Ondig has a story for us coming to us from the state capitol.
Reversing the $1 billion in cuts, investing in education, because when you invest in education, you invest in job growth.
That's Senator John Udechak, who supports Governor Wolf's plan to implement a Marcellus Shell severance tax to help fund education.
When you go from the top 10 in job creation to dead last, 50th in job creation, that tells you you're not investing in higher education, you're not investing in K through 12, you're not investing in workforce development. We need to make these investments in our schools, whether it's our K through 12 schools, whether it's our community colleges, our public institutions of higher education. Investments in education is squarely where the governor's priority is.
The Luzerne County lawmaker says even without any new state programs, additional revenue is needed to eliminate a structural budget deficit of nearly $2 billion.
We're looking at a $1.5 to $2 billion structural deficit. So clearly, we need new revenue, a severance tax, which was not implemented over the last 4 years of the Corbett administration. We need to have a responsible energy policy, a responsible severance tax, so that we can have a responsible budget for the taxpayers of Pennsylvania.
Howard Ondick, State Capitol.
Checking KUR Sports, save the date for the 9th annual George Baldwin Maroon and Gold football golf outing on Friday, July 31st. The outing will take place at the Rich Maiden Golf Course at 1 p.m. More information coming soon. For more details, you can contact Kettner, that's Ketner, at kutztown.edu. Monsoon Mike says April-like weather.
761 presents the Old School Hip Hop Jam featuring Rob Bass, Is Markey, Naughty by Nature, and Salt and Pepper. Friday, April 24th at Santander Arena. Tickets on sale now at the VF Outlet box office. All Ticketmaster outlets. Charged by phone at 800-745-3000 and online at Ticketmaster.com. The Old School Hip Hop Jam. Friday, April 24th at Santander Arena.
For late-breaking news, weather, sports, and traffic, sometimes before we can even get it live on the air, make sure you like our award-winning Kutztown University Radio Facebook page or on Twitter at KU Radio. From KUR News, I'm Mike Regensberger. Have a great day.
Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services, Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
It's 12:09 right here on the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio on this beautiful mid-April afternoon. From the KUR Notebook, attention KU community, the Art Club will be hosting the second annual Color Run on Saturday, April 18th, beginning at 9 a.m. The event will be held on the cross-country course, starting by the baseball fields. Registration is open now. You can pick up a registration form in the McFarland Student Union Building, room 171 on KU United, at the MSU Information Desk, or in the KU bookstore. Students, faculty, alumni, and the community are eligible to participate. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. So, we just got, we got done, well, I guess talking a little bit, we were talking Flyers in the offseason, and then we, got into a little bit of weight room etiquette discussion. I brought up Mr. Lapuchin, and, the other day, one of my friends, from high school, and actually, one year in strength class, he was in my foursome weightlifting group, I guess you could say, with Mr. Lapuchin as the strength teacher, of course. Kind of ironically, him and Mr. Lapuchin on Facebook the other day, like Mike said, Ronda Rousey, of course, the UFC superstar right now, undefeated and in the UFC and everything, said he, and of course had a role, I guess, in Furious 7, and the movie pays a little bit of homage, of course, to Paul Walker, and for those, I guess, who have seen the movie, I guess, share your thoughts on it. I mean, I haven't seen it or anything, but but nevertheless, if you did see it, I mean, it's always something you could bring up here because it, involves sort of a superstar here, I guess you could say. But Mike said that Ronda Rousey seriously needs to stick to MMA. Her acting career, acting in quotes, was just awful. So I'm assuming he wasn't too favorable here. And then this Mr. Lapuchin chimes in, happens to be on Facebook. And seconds, nobody cares about her acting. And then Mike says back, I would hope not. It's, bleep. Something that I guess you can't say here. And then Mr. Lapuchin responds, you're a connoisseur of fine drama. I had no idea. So it's, Lapuchin chiming in there, as we used to call him. And of course, he was the throwing coach for, the track team at government. Well, I would assume he still is, but not that I was a thrower, but So I mean, it was just a little, it's a little, I guess it's a little bit of a Mr. Lapuchin Appreciation Day, I guess you could say in a sense, because again, I mean, that little weight room etiquette, I guess common sense, that would have been something he would have been absolutely fired up about, and for good reason. I mean, it was just, again, you can't, for those who are going to lift weight, and I mean, if you're doing 275 and whatever, I mean, I would think that you have some kind of basic enough idea of what you're doing that you would know you can't do that. You can't take off all the weights on one side and then have 245s and a 25-pound plate on the other side, and just not assume that it's going to, tip over and give out on the one side and crash and burn and, potentially cause a serious injury. But anyways, moving on. Let's get it together here, I guess, a little bit here. Maybe lighten the mood a little bit. And listen to some of what Jordan Spieth had to say in his interview the other day after winning the Masters, the 2015 Masters. I picked him to win. I would have liked to have made light of that, but we didn't. I thought maybe Matt Walsh was maybe going to join us last week, and you never know. He can pop on at any given moment. And I would have liked to have asked him on the show what his thoughts were regarding the Masters, who he predicted to win. Because quite frankly, I had Jordan Spieth, and surely enough, he won it. So let's listen to a little bit of that, and what was a pretty history-making performance, I guess you could say, in essence, by Jordan Spieth.
Jordan, you epitomise the qualities that this club was founded on. And I think if Bobby Jones and Clifford Roberts were in the room right now, they would be smiling with pride seeing you sitting in the green jacket. Could you share a few thoughts with us before we open up for questions? Just how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I don't really know. It's incredible. It's one of the best feelings I've ever felt. This was arguably the greatest day of my life. And to join the club that is the Green Jackets and to join Masters history and put my name on that trophy and to have this jacket forever is something that I can't fathom right now. It's, yesterday I walked out of this interview room saying I want to walk back in there really late tomorrow and sit there with the jacket on. And I've watched for a lot of years guys finish on 18. I watched it firsthand last year and watched guys come into this room with the jacket on and always dreamt of doing the same. So to be honest, it's just an honor to join those names that have been on the trophy before. And all in all, just very, very happy with the day today.
Well, you did awesome. John, let's start with you.
Jordan, earlier this week, Ben called you Wyatt Earp, and that you're pretty intense. Did you come into this golf tournament after last year with a bit of a chip on your shoulder, with needing to prove something to yourself?
I think it was not only last year, I think it was last week. I think the combination of the two, I was already hungry from last year, having had an opportunity and watched it slip away and watched Bubba win and everything that came with Bubba being the Masters champion and the announcements of it and going on the shows and the whatever. I knew I had a chance to win that tournament. And so you get reminded of it all the time because when you're a Masters champion, it's a different legacy. And so that definitely left me hungry. And then also having a chance to win the last couple weeks and not quite pulling it off. I knew I was playing well, just needed to be rested enough to come in this week. So the combination of the two allowed me to keep my head down, not worry about anybody else in the field except myself, and to play a golf course that is my favorite course in the world, in Augusta National.
Doug.
Jordan, two things. What was the hardest part of the golf today? And secondly, did you meet with Ben last night after you were done? And if you did, what did you share with us?
The hardest part is just managing this situation and managing the mental side of it. I knew physically that I could be there. What's that?
Is there a moment?
I was in pretty good control, and Michael really kept me in it there on the front nine when I made a couple bogeys. But the key moment, I think, came down to 16. It was that late. Before that, I still felt pretty comfortable, still felt like, I could walk up 18 stress-free. But on 16, when Justin had that birdie putt and then I had that slider for par, that's when I really felt like it could get out of my hands if I'm not careful here. And he had a lot of putts that just dove across or stopped just short. If he had made, if a couple of those had dropped for him on the back nine, it would have put even more pressure. But stepped over that putt, just trying to put good speed, feed it out there and visualize and align. And that was certainly, I would call that the biggest putt I've ever hit in my life. And I saw Mr. Crenshaw after the round yesterday. He was outside right after media, and it was just all positive. And then he sent me a text that I got this morning. I got a lot of really nice texts, but he was saying, "Stay patient. This is going to be yours. You got this thing. You're playing great, and just keep your head down and stay focused," I think is what it said. And but throughout the week, the words of advice and the specifics on the golf course. Michael and I owe a lot to Ben and Carl for creating this opportunity for us.
All right, so there you go. I mean, it was a bit prefaced by, maybe this win for Spieth being like a year in the making. I mean, he kind of said how last year when Bubba Watson won it, and he fell just short of achieving, obviously one of his ultimate goals here in the PGA. I mean, it's again. I mean, 1 year later he comes back. He's hungry, as he said, and he won it. He kept things afloat throughout the entire weekend, and wins 18 under by 4 strokes. So that's that. On the other side, as we got another commercial break coming, here's some more from Ron Jaworski and Merrill Hodge. I guess maybe, as one writer would say, destroying Jameis Winston's draft stock on ESPN. So we'll look into that on the other side right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio, 610-683-4058 or facebook.com/Tyler Werner Show to get in. Be right back after this.
Email any suggestions to kur@kutztown.edu. Complaints, concerns, questions, whatever you may be thinking at the time, it's kur@kutztown.edu.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
12:21 right here on the Tyler Werner Show today. 610-683-4058. Number to get in, as always. As I mentioned earlier, I mean, with Ron Jaworski and, his whole thoughts on Marcus Mariota, or, Mariota, as he would say. I mean, whatever pronunciation, I guess, works for you there. Had some interesting things to say earlier in the week about Mariota and how, the Eagles, I mean, on CSN Philly, if they can, if they want to mortgage the future and if he's the guy, go up and get him. Although, again, we're led to believe, Sam Bradford that they brought in here and, again, I mean, they essentially traded Nick Foles and got Bradford in return, and there was, I guess, a little bit of swapping of some later draft picks or whatever. I don't know. I mean, again, I mean, Bradford. I mean, $13 million. I mean, that's sort of I guess a franchise quarterback salary right there as far as that goes, and it brings
He wants your money.
Yeah, it brings up a. Again, it's just another interesting discussion in of itself when it comes to, everybody thinking that, they were going to do something to get Marcus Mariota and, and his, with all the possible trade rumors that, Chip Kelly, brought up, of course, in his press conference a few weeks ago with Media Day and everything.
You got nothing to talk about on sports radio. Let's talk about trades.
And, I mean, and then, again, there's the whole angle of it, like, what if he does in fact slide? Or then there was also brought up that maybe the Browns, they want to get rid of Johnny Manziel, and they might be willing to trade pick, give their number 12 selection away for a team that's willing to trade for that, and would that make that kind of exchange? And, what if Mariota slides to there, and what if the Eagles, do something like that with the Browns? And it's just, again, I mean, it continues to unfold as we get closer to the draft, week by week. And this week, it's, as far as NFL experts go and whatever, it's been Ron Jaworski and, believing that Marcus Mariota, Chip Kelly believes that Marcus Mariota will win multiple Super Bowls, and that Jaworski says you should go and get him if this is, your franchise guy or whatever. Now, I previewed before the last commercial break with, sportsgrid.com, this article titled Ron Jaworski and Merrill Hodge Destroy Jameis Winston's Draft Stock on ESPN. Essentially, it's, what it says. Jameis Winston has been the presumptive number 1 overall pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for months. And, again, we continue to mention that, and he's, but Marcus Mariota's draft stock has fluctuated from 2nd overall to mid-first round, and is, in Brian Baldinger's case, pick number 20. Now, thanks to Ron Jaworski and Merrill Hodge, we might see the fortunes of these two quarterbacks reversed, this writer claims. The ESPN analysts didn't have many nice things to say about Winston today, and seemed to think Mariota was a better fit for the Bucs organization. There's other things brought up about it. Marcus Mariota is this shy, quiet guy, really smart and whatever, and he's, aside from skill sets and potential overall, as compared to Jameis Winston. I was watching a few days ago, there was this thing on NFL Network with, Steve Mariucci, like getting together with Jameis Winston and giving him a workout and whatever, and doing this figure 8 footwork, and kind of trying to keep him in line with behavior or whatever. And Jameis Winston kind of saying that was the past. I want to kind of move on from it or whatever, and stuff like that, I guess. I was watching that, and so there's the whole thing with I guess a character difference there with that whole thing. But let's now hear on this video, I guess, from Jaworski and Merrill Hodge, I guess, quote unquote, destroying Jameis Winston's draft stock on ESPN, and believing that now Marcus Mariota will be the first overall selection by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Are Merrill Hodge and Ron Jaworski, who doesn't think that Jameis Winston should be the top pick in the draft. He thinks that Marcus Mariota should go number 1 in the draft, correct?
That is correct.
And why, my friend? We've heard this over the airwaves, but for the purposes of this morning, can you lay it out for us?
First of all, let me preface my comments by I think both quarterbacks are going to have outstanding NFL careers.
All right.
Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. Now, hey, it's that time of year. There it is, the quarterback attribute sheet. As I break down all the quarterbacks prior to the draft. I always have the props with me, Hannah. You got to have that. As I break down the quarterbacks, and like I said, I think both quarterbacks have outstanding NFL careers. But you have to look for the fit. And I not only study the quarterback, I study the organization. I study the Glazers, how they operate, how Jason Light, the general manager, operates, how Lovie Smith operates, how Dirk Cutter, the new offensive coordinator, operates. And I see a fit of Marcus Mariota being the guy that should be quarterbacking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And until I hear from somebody different, I believe Mariota will be their first pick. Now, I'm going to take another step. You look at the history of the quarterback position. Quarterbacks that get beat up don't last very long. You look at the history of David Carr, Tim Couch, Rick Meyer, all those guys. They played behind bad offensive line. And, oh, by the way, the Buccaneers have a bad offensive line. When I look at Winston, he's not the most mobile, quick-twitch guy, the ability to get outside the pocket. Mariota is a very good runner. Mobility is important at that position. It's become more important. So I'm going to stay with my pick of Marcus Mariota being the number 1 choice. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers on April 30th.
They have a bad offensive line for now. That's not to say that that offensive line couldn't improve. And if you're looking to have a quarterback for the next decade or so, do you draft for what a team is now or what a team's going to be down the road potentially.
Yeah, you know what, Hannah, I mean, there's a lot. He threw out a lot there. There's some things. I have a lot more. I know you do, but let's take a little bit at a time here, okay?
All right.
First and foremost, I think the big mistake that Josh just made and Tampa will probably make on draft day is you got to build a team. Teams win championships, and Tampa needs to build a good football team. So what's the best thing you should do if you got that number one pick? Get somebody who can play for you and contribute to you, not stress you. Now, let's go to what he says, Mariota over Winston. I agree with that if you're going to go that direction because of the stress Winston will put on you. He hit around it a little bit. The one thing that is very clear is I study Winston, and when he transitions to the NFL, it'll get exposed a lot more than it did in college. He is a slow, lumbering athlete. That slow twitch, slow-footed, lumbering skill will never be changed. You're not going to coach him out of it. He's not going to be a quick twitch guy one day. That means teams will attack that. He doesn't move well off of his initial
and that's what you mean by stress. You're not talking about anything off the field. You're saying
that's a whole other subject.
You're talking about that style of play.
Because we're talking about on the field right now. We could have a whole other discussion about character. That's not where
we talked about the big picture of the organization.
Well, we get to that. Those are two separate things.
Right.
Inside the white lines, when I say he will stress your offense, because he's a slow, lumbering player. You know, when you see him drop back in the pocket and it's clean, and it's like that a lot in college, like 80-90% of the time. Well, when you think of the differences in the NFL and college, well, here's one of them. You go to the NFL, that pocket's condensed. There's going to be a lot of traffic in it, a lot more, almost double to triple what he saw in college. Now, when he did have that type of traffic there, it was bad. I mean, when I say bad, really bad. You know, a lot of interceptions, bad throws, because he can't reset. You know, listen, his pro day, I watched him struggle getting away from a broom. Now those are drills. Drills you can do. You can hide a lot of things, but they're drills.
So do you agree
real life action?
Is that what I'm
listen, if you said
that Mariota is more of a sure bet?
Well, I don't think either one of them guys are sure bet.
There's
never a sure bet. I say a higher percentage, Anna. And here's what I like about Mariota. He takes care of the football. 105 touchdown passes in his career, only 14 interceptions. Now, both you and I have looked at the Jameis Winston interception tape from last year. 18 of them, 25 touchdown passes. A lot of bad decisions, forced throws. Now, his year before that, 2013, 40 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But I'm always worried about a quarterback that's careless with the football. And in the National Football League, the quickest way to lose is throw interceptions or turn the football over.
I feel like you're the...
All right. Let's, man, I mean, again, it's just like Jaworski and Merrill, I mean, coming, you know, right out of the chute there, just, God, fired up about, you know, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. And did Merrill Hodge like call Winston like fat at one point? I mean, I have to go back and listen to that again, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting thoughts there with Ron Jaworski and Merrill Hodge. But anyways, so, you know, again, it continues to be a topic of discussion. You know, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see, you know, what the experts are saying next week. You know, what next polarizing opinion or prediction comes out as we get closer to the NFL draft, and it's certainly one that will be very interesting for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I had another, you know, earlier we started the show off by, you know, delivering the breaking news, I guess, for those who haven't heard it yet. Obviously, with Aaron Hernandez, you know, being officially found guilty of first-degree murder, facing life imprisonment, and, you know, how that investigation got to a came to a close, it seems. And on the other hand, you have, you know, speaking of things like regarding the New England Patriots, for instance, a theory about Deflategate and how the NFL, like, you know, continues to like, you know, Roger, get like they can't. It's really like they're not really able to move forward in things when it comes to Deflategate and figure out more of what happened. I mean, I've been hearing, you know, more complaints about how can't, you know, how are they not figuring this stuff out. And
it's like you got a problem
Roger
with
Goodell and
concentration.
It's
not rocket science, people.
Here's I don't know. It's kind of it's kind of, I guess, funny in a way. The Eagles, of course, gave this guy Tim Tebow a workout a few weeks ago or a month ago, whenever it was. And this writer from SportsGrid.com, brought up an interesting theory here in an article entitled "Did the NFL interview Tim Tebow about Deflategate?" Now, Deflategate is clinging to life. The Super Bowl week non-story somehow managed to wreak havoc on the New England Patriots, on their already tarnished reputation, and it's still under investigation. Now 81 days long, the Ted Wells investigation has lasted longer than Bill Belichick's tenure with the New York Giants. The New York Jets. As has been pointed out by Tim Corin of CSN New England, the NFL has got some explaining to do. After all this time, they need to come up with something, anything, because they've got all kinds of questions to answer here. And, again, they're still not able to answer them. Now, let's see here. It goes on to say the most pressing questions were not the ones that Curran posted, but rather in response to one of the statements, which could link Tim Tebow, a walking media circus, to Deflategate, a totally different non-ambulatory media circus. Now, CSN New England said at the owners' meetings, I asked someone who would know, what the holdup was. They said, you figured they'd talk to the backup quarterback, right, about this? Because obviously, they heard a lot from Tom Brady, of course, with Deflategate when it was...
To me, those balls are perfect.
And, Tom Brady had a lot of, I don't knows and stuff like that in there. But, so it says they're talking to the backup quarterbacks from years ago, too. I don't know if that was, apocryphal or not, but I've heard the investigators have been through Foxborough more than once. Anybody who touched the footballs or knows the people who touched the footballs has been subjected to metal chair under a single naked light bulb type questioning. If they're interviewing backup quarterbacks from years ago, the author of the article suggested, then did they interview Tim Tebow? Because the guy's a good Christian and can't lie to investigators, so he'd be the perfect person to ask about deflated balls. Am I right? If he doesn't volunteer the information, then no one will. Of course, his time with the Patriots was short, so perhaps he knows nothing. But it's worth a try if the NFL is empty-handed and still can't seem to figure any of this out. And the fact that the NFL is interviewing backup quarterbacks from years ago seems to indicate that they do have nothing and that they didn't get enough out of Tom Brady. Why else would they dig so deep? They must be desperate. And the longer this takes, the harder it will be for them to climb out of their hole without evidence. It'll be embarrassing for Wells and obviously Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL. So that's, I guess a bit of a Deflategate update, I guess, in a sense of what's, in a possible theory, maybe interview Tim Tebow.
I've handled dozens of balls
maybe
over the past week.
I don't know. Because, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, they said what they could, and then, that's what you got. And other than that, Goodell, the NFL, they failed to, really get to the bottom of this. Unlike, today, the court's getting to the bottom of the Aaron Hernandez murder from a couple years ago. So that's really that. As we get towards the end of the Tyler Werner show today, and as we have to head to telescopic topics, as we normally do during this time. So with that in mind, we will head to that and finish up on the other side, as we normally do with the MVP of the week. Stay tuned right here in the Tyler Werner Show on Kutztown Radio.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
NASA identified 911 near-Earth asteroids with an approximate diameter of 1,000 meters.
These are considered the larger planetoids found within our solar system and located between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter in the main belt. The near-Earth asteroids are split into 3 groups: Amor, Apollo, and Aten. Amor asteroids' orbits come close but do not cross Earth's orbits, while Apollo asteroids do cross Earth's orbits but spend most of the time outside. Unlike the other 2 groups of asteroids, Aten asteroids spend more time within the Earth's orbit as well. Despite the seemingly massive collection of asteroids in the solar system, the mass of the combined total equals less than that of the Earth's moon. Asteroids revolve around the Sun-like planets in an elliptical orbit, and 150 of them are known to have small companion moons as well. However, the surface temperature of a typical asteroid is about negative 70 degrees Celsius. They have remained mostly unchanged for billions of years, which might offer some additional insights into the origins of the solar system. 75% of known asteroids are called C-type or carbonaceous. These asteroids inhabit the main belt's outer region. The 2 other larger categories include S-type or siliceous and M-type or metallic. A rarer type is referred to as a V-type. These groups of asteroids have a basaltic volcanic crust composition. Asteroids capable of inflicting global disaster on Earth would need to have roughly a quarter-mile diameter. Such an impact from an asteroid of that size could send the Earth's atmosphere into a state of nuclear winter. An atmospheric cloud of dust would block out the sun and encase the Earth within a thick veil of particles. But statistically speaking, the chances of an asteroid hitting the Earth at that magnitude only occur once every 1,000 centuries. Information on asteroids was very limited until 1991, when Galileo was the first spacecraft to take close-up images of an asteroid. In 2001, the first craft to successfully land on an asteroid was named Eros and paved the way for others to test similar bounds in the future. With the continual advancement of technology, it is only a matter of time before we have a greater understanding of the intricate system of asteroids within our solar system.
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more telescopic topics, and for more information or to hear the segment again, click on the Telescopic Topics icon on the KUR website at www.kutztown.edu/KUR. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by the KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Some days one ball may feel good, the next day it may not. It depends on maybe how, I don't know, the humidity in the air or how old the ball was, or, I think there's a lot of variables with, obviously, Mother Nature and with the balls.
Yes, we just still can't seem to get anything out of the NFL, really, as far as an update with Deflategate after 81 days now it is. So it's, again, it's just, I don't know, it's, somebody suggests, hey, why don't, you're going to interview backup quarterbacks from the Patriots from, the past several years or whatever, why not interview, Tim Tebow? He's a good, a good Christian. You'd obviously think he's going to be open and honest about it. And, he was only there for, on the Patriots, for a very brief time, but still, I don't know, maybe get some kind of explanation out of this.
I just think somebody owes us an explanation.
Because it just continues to go on, and, I'm heard rumblings about, how can't they figure any of this out? It's, but it is what it is for now, I guess. And that is, still a mystery that the NFL, Roger Goodell in the NFL is still having problems, I guess, getting to the bottom of. It's been one of the things that have stuck with us throughout the spring semester here on the Tyler Werner Show. But they can't get to the bottom of it, and here we are, only a few weeks left in the semester, and it still seems like a smokescreen of a situation. But anyways, moving on here, so we got to wrap things up on the Tyler Werner Show. From the KUR Notebook, attention KU community, The University Writing Center is a free service for students offering advice and assistance with writing assignments from any course or subject. Tutors can assist you in improving your composing process, as well as with difficulties with development, organization, style, documentation, and mechanics. The UWC is located in Old Main, room 132. Its hours are Monday through Thursday, 9 to 5, Friday, 10 to 4, and Monday and Wednesday evenings, 6 to 9 p.m. Please call 610-683-4733, email wrcenter@kutztown.edu, or come into Old Main, room 132 to set up an appointment. This message of community interest brought to you by the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR. And as we end things here on the Tyler Werner Show shortly, the MVP of the week. It's time for Tyler Werner's MVP of the week. Yeah, and I mean, it kind of already went through it, but, you know, Jordan Spieth, the MVP of the week. Again, I mean, the 21-year-old, and not just because I predicted him to win, or, you know, but just in general, what he was able to accomplish at this tournament. The way he came so close last year to, down to the wire with Bubba Watson at the Masters and fell just short. This year, again, he gets out to a commanding lead in the tournament. Has a couple bit of difficulties, but still holds strong throughout the later rounds in the tournament and finishes 18 under par to win by 4 strokes as the 2015 Masters champion. And I mean, that's... Again, for a 21-year-old, it's one of those things you can say in the golf world. I mean, he might just be getting started as far as his career in the golf, and winning the Masters at age 21. I mean, that's, again, very, very impressive feat. And certainly it's, it's definitely shaping up to be an interesting year of golf this coming, because again, I mean, last year, to me it was kind of Rory McIlroy, who was kind of returning to form. Another fairly young golfer, obviously early in his career, and I mean, Phil Mickelson was, in a tie for second, is where he finished in this Masters. So another big name up there on the list. And, again, I mean, to a lesser extent, I mean, Tiger Woods, hung in there. Even though I don't,
I had a few things.
Even though I don't think he's got it in him to really, top the leaderboards and be a favorite to win any major tournaments coming up or anything. But, nevertheless, I mean, he was there. He survived the cuts. Just barely early on in the tournament, and then seemed to put something together, and at least showed some promise that maybe his back issues are coming along. But still, at the end of the day, I don't see him winning any major tournaments. In case anybody is rooting for that to happen, because again, I think you got enough. I think Rory McIlroy now and Jordan Spieth and some other big names that pop up in the mix. It's kind of, to me it's interesting when you got a bunch of guys here who can compete and win major tournaments, and not just, one guy, where this thing where essentially golf depends on one guy, and whether or not, after 7 years of not winning a major tournament now, whether he can win that, win another major or whatever. Golf is just fine, with the way things are right now, the way things are shaping up after the Masters tournament and everything. And then, that's in a nutshell my take on this whole thing. Now, again, whether or not Jordan Spieth, some people are throwing out the ideas, maybe, he could be the next Tiger Woods or whatever. And, with those kinds of, I guess, theories thrown, directed his way or whatever, you wonder if how he handles this kind of spotlight, I guess you could say, or handles this kind of success. Should be very interesting golf season certainly with him now the Masters champion, him up there in the mix, amongst other guys in the world of golf. Just like it's, interesting following as we get closer to the NFL draft, and with guys like Ron Jaworski and some of the things Merrill Hodge, and some of the things they had to say this past few days with Marcus Mariota, and of course the favorite to be number one selection by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this year's draft, Jameis Winston. So as usual, we'll continue those discussions next week and see what happens. And probably by that point, by the end of this week, we should have, I believe, the official schedule for the NFL and the Philadelphia Eagles. So we should be able to, I guess, talk about that next week. Maybe go through it as we normally would during this time of the year, and maybe start, making some early predictions for wins and losses for the 2015 Eagles season. Stay tuned for that next week on the Tyler Werner Show as we close things down as usual around 12:50 so I can get to my next class. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and again, we wish Mike Regensberger a return as soon as he can. A happy return as he overcomes his respiratory infection that he had. So stay tuned. Monsoon Mike will return, and I'll return next week, same time as always, for another edition of the Tyler Werner Show to talk more Philadelphia sports. Until then,